Welcome to Lesson 4 of my Flip Your Classroom project for using integrated software across the curriculum. My name is William Sarantino, and for these past 3 lessons we've been talking about the basics of cartoon creation, the basic steps on how to create a cartoon. We talked about form and line and frame, we talked about perspective, we talked about light and shadow, and we talked about shading. And for the last section of my mini course, I'd like to talk about details. They say the devil's in the details. And this is our character. I've been talking to you about creating this zombie cartoon character, and that was my purpose. And purpose is important because details can either hinder your drawing or they can help your drawing, all depending on what your purpose of your drawing was and how you want to get your point across. Okay, my drawing was simply just done as an example. There's very little point to it other than to show off the various steps I took in getting here. So details will actually help our picture. A picture that's overloaded with details has a tendency to confuse the eye and therefore confuse the brain, so too many details would actually hinder your picture. Okay, so we're going to look at our character here. Now, a character like this, from my imagination, needs a little bit more human aspects, so I'm going to add the detail of hair, but sparse hair because, after all, our character has been zombified. Okay, we have dirt and grime with shading that we use. We shaded in, we cross-hatched in some dirt and grime, so I don't have to add that detail, but I'm going to add just a few other little details, a few little vertical lines here and there that kind of add a little bit more to the beat-up and decrepit look of this particular character. But we still don't really know much about this character, where the setting is. This is where we're going to get to the where and when. Now, originally we talked about the who and the what, and we're going to answer that with saying who, well, this is our character, and the what is the character is a zombie. So we're going to talk about the where and the when. Now, I've got this trash can here to show the difference between foreground and background with our horizon line, but I'm going to get rid of that because in my original vision that really wasn't there. Okay, and another detail is I'm going to darken in these eyes because it just gives a little bit more of a foreboding look to our character. I'm going to put some lines underneath his eyes and some lines here and maybe sink his cheeks in a little. Now, if I was doing this with pencil and paper, I would probably erase much of my head shape and change it to look a little more sinister, but I don't have, I'm not going to do that now. So, we're going to add some details to kind of show the whole, a little bit more of a story about this picture. So I'm going to add something in the background, maybe a building here. And again, I'm just using lines, only rather than draw a frame, I'm kind of freehand drawing it. So it's not going to come out great because freehand is pretty difficult unless you practice and practice and practice. Really the best method I could recommend is to use a frame. Okay, so, but for the purpose of our cartoon demonstration, I'm just going to freehand a couple of buildings here, and they are at the very background of our horizon line, so you can imagine that they're very, very tall, but far away. Okay, so there we go. This is just, I'm not going to go overboard because I don't want to add so many details that our character gets lost. Maybe I'll put some more lines in here to indicate that the ground has growth on it. Up close you can actually add blades of grass, which is another fine detail to show depth, but because you wouldn't be able to see them at a distance, when they recede into your background, they just kind of become lines. Okay, and that's pretty much all I'm going to do with this character, because this is a very, very basic look at cartooning, and I'm not trying to create a masterpiece or a work of art here. I'm just trying to give you some techniques so you can arrive at your own masterpieces and works of art. The most important thing I can mention is practice, practice, practice. And a really great method that I learned at an early age on how to practice is to draw yourself a group of shapes that you're going to turn into heads. Okay? Now, there's an idea behind where the direction is based on the frame. For instance, all of our characters here are generally facing forward. Here's my eyes, my nose, my mouth. Okay, again, remember the ears of a human are perfectly in line with their eyes, so you use your eye line to gauge that. But anyway, to get back to my point, if you have a shape and you slightly change the direction of your frame, it changes the direction that your character is looking in. But we're not going to talk about that now because this is a basic idea, and the concepts I wanted to impart to you were very, very basic concepts. So if you draw yourself an entire sheet of frames, then it really helps to practice drawing heads. So we've looked at a number of the basic ideas behind how to create a simple one-frame cartoon. But now that we're done with the lessons, I just want to emphasize a few more points that hopefully will help you on your way to developing your own style. The most important point I could tell you is practice. Practice, practice, practice. Okay, sometimes I'll draw something for my students and they'll say, "Oh, Mr. S, that's great. You did a really great job. How did you learn to do that?" And I'll say, "Practice. I started drawing when I was your age." So practice, practice, practice. You can never practice too much. The second thing I want to say is look at examples. All right? Now, when you're learning to do anything, and this is especially true of the teaching world because we're always taking each other's ideas, but when you're learning to do anything, it never hurts to look at what other people have done in that particular field. The internet is filled with people just like myself who want to give you their advice on how to draw something. So it never hurts to look at other people's examples of finished work and other people's examples of work in progress. Looking at examples will help you to develop your own kind of idea. Okay, the last thing I want to say is don't be afraid to copy other people's work. All right, and I don't mean this in a plagiaristic type of way, but if you see a drawing that really inspires you and you say, "Oh, I'd love to learn how to draw that," then, you know, by all means, print it out and put it in front of you with some blank paper and give it a shot. I mean, copy their technique. Now, of course, it's always good to start with a frame to work off and with a form and a shape to work off, but if you have a picture in front of you and you just want to give that a try, copying it, there's nothing wrong with that. It'll help you to develop drawing dexterity. I hope you've enjoyed the video mini lessons that I've provided for you today. I hope they were comprehensive enough and that what I said made some kind of sense. Again, I'm William Sorrentino, and this has been my Flip Your Classroom project for using integrated software across the curriculum. So thank you for spending some time with me. I've certainly enjoyed making these videos. And finally, I'd like to give a big thank you to my lovely daughter who had to stay up way past her bedtime to help me run the camera. So thank you, Julia, and good night.